Hi there guys, how's it going? A couple of people have been asking me, do I know of any ways to help kind of with the lag in the game? And there are a few, but I'll say this. Scrap Mechanic does keep bringing updates every now and again, and what I have noticed over the short period that I've been playing this game, literally since Survival came out, every time they bring an update, something changes. So for example, a little while ago I noticed that having a lot of pistons on stuff seemed to cause a lot of lag. Then they brought an update in and the piston issue wasn't there anymore, but a bearing issue was. So it's really hard to give tips that are going to work 100% of the time, all the time, because of the changes that they're doing kind of to the engine and stuff in the background. But I can give you some tips as of now. Some of them are graphic tips, stuff that you change in the settings. Some of them are little game tips, stuff to do with your overall gameplay. So here is a prime example, I guess. As you can see, there is a lot of grass. One of the easiest ways to reduce the lag is to reduce the foliage density. And this is in the options. So if we go into options and we go into graphics, you'll see over here on the right hand side, it says foliage density. As you can see, I've got mine set to very high at the minute, and you can see all of this grass. So with survival, the lowest we can set this to is low, and we'll apply it, and you can just see the difference straight away. So that's given the game something less that it has to worry about trying to render in. Whilst we're also in the options, a lot of the stuff I've got set to high. This is great if you've got a good high-end computer, because obviously it's going to be punching a lot and trying to do a lot of the workings. If you're not too fussed about the graphics, drop all this stuff down to low or even turn it off, and this again will also help with your lag. Now the draw distance, from what I understand, is all about the rendering distance, so it's all to do with how far away things will render in. So we're currently now running everything on low, and as you can see over there in the distance is probably the best thing. It seems like it's a little bit foggy in the distance, and the rest of the world's just kind of a bit of a haze. But this is supposedly going to give less strain onto your computer, so you will, again, be able to have less lag, which is interesting, because now randomly I seem to have picked up a lot of lag. But that puts us nicely onto our next sort of ported topic. Machinery. Okay, so as it stands, a lot of machinery just slides around the map, and this stuff sliding around will cause you a lot of problems. Right here in front of me, I have two machines that are very heavy on bearings. Like I said at the start of the video, what I have seen right now is things that are really bearing heavy on their own seem to cause a lot of lag. But if you get two things that are really bearing heavy quite close together, they really do not like each other. So what is recommended is that if you're not using a machine, if possible, weld it to a post that's stuck on the ground. So I'm going to try and take this, and we're going to weld it up here. So there we go. So that's kind of dropped the lag back to where it was. So that's one of the things you can do. You can weld your machines off of the ground. And likewise, one way to explain how problems are created in Scrap Mechanic is collisions. So basically, if the game has to try and work out that something is near something else, hitting something else, this will cause a lot of lag. And to demonstrate this, I'm going to drop one machine on top of the other. So if I take my lift out, you can see it already. The game's trying to work out where the collisions are going to be. There's going to be some lag going on. There's a lot of processing going on, a lot of trying to work out what's happening. So if you can avoid collisions as much as you can, that will also help. Now that could be a problem, because collisions can literally be your machine hitting into the rocks or the trees as well. So if you can kind of refine down how big a surface area and how often those collisions happen, that would be good. It's also annoyingly things like, if you've seen people build trucks, they'll build like a flatbed truck or something. So they'll have the lorry like this, and then they'll have the freestanding trailer. We'll just build it on the lift. So then they'll have like a trailer that will have like the wheel set up or something, and the trailer will be designed so it goes onto the lorry like so. What you've got to take into account is that is also a collision that's going to be happening there. So that's something that the game has to calculate. Try as much as you can to avoid those sort of things. Suspension as well. Suspension can be a huge problem in terms of creating lag. Everybody loves to create suspension stuff. It's brilliant. But big machines, again, if you've got a lot of suspension on big machines, you are probably also going to suffer with some frame drop and some lag. I guess that's the most important thing. Now, a lot of people will go into, if you go into display, they'll go into vertical sync and they'll say, oh, you should turn this on. This isn't necessarily going to help you with frame drop, and here's why. I've been reading a lot about VSync, trying to get the best idea of it so I can put it across. Vertical sync, from what I've read, is basically this. It basically is your graphics card is always trying to punch out the highest number of frames the graphics card can, but your monitor can only display the number of frames that its refresh hertz is. So if you're on a 60 hertz monitor, that means you're going to get 60 frames per second coming through the monitor. That's what the monitor can produce, 60 frames per second. High-end graphics cards will be pumping out high-end frame rates. Vertical sync, if I put a vertical sync on, what that basically does is say to the graphics card, only punch out 60 frames. My monitor can only handle 60 frames, so only punch out 60 frames. So the graphics card will be working away and punching out 60 frames. That's fine. However, if you get to a point in the game where it does start to cause lag, and the monitor starts to see the lag, so again, if I drop this truck on here, as soon as this starts to cause lag, what happens is, obviously the frames in the monitor reduce, but then the graphics card goes, okay, so now the monitor is only processing 10 frames per second, so then the graphics card only delivers 10 frames a second. So there's a lot of people that say turn VSync on, but if you actually look at what VSync is, it might not actually help your frames per second, it might actually hurt you. I personally run with it off. I've turned it on now and again. Honestly, don't really see a difference. I don't know if it will help people who have lower running machines. That makes sense. If you've got a real good high quality machine, I don't see what the difference in turning it off and on is, honestly. But for me, I'm afraid in my options, I'm lucky enough to run everything on high, apart from the foliage density. And the reason why I do that low is just simply because the grass coming through the ground, it's really annoying. It's the long and short of it. I don't see why you need it all. It just gets in the way when you're trying to build farms and stuff. But that is basically how I run it. You have to just kind of tweak your settings. Unfortunately, you have to have a trade-off between what you can see and how your machine can run, is the long and short of it. If you are struggling with frames, and unfortunately you do have to drop those graphic settings, yes, obviously the game might not look so good, but you might get better gameplay out of it. So it's trying to understand, what do you really want? Can you cope with kind of a stuttering effect, or do you want to, you know, have things look dull, boring, but be able to play the game? It's a trade-off there. And this is what I was saying about that kind of render distance. So if we go into the options and go into the graphics, and it's got that it's got the draw distance. So I've got mine set to very high, and as you can see the islands in the distance. So I'm just going to set this down to low and apply it again, and you see how everything's disappeared. So that's all to do with the render distance. So that's one of the big things. Obviously it will only kind of render in so far, which means again there's not too much work going on behind the scenes. I hope that helps some people, and I hope the vertical sync is explained properly. Like I say, try to read up on it so that I could deliver it the best of the knowledge that I could find, just to kind of help understand it a bit better. Vertical sync can be good, but it can also kind of be counterproductive. So it's up to you. Run it, have it a go. Do you see a difference? Leave it on. If you don't see a difference, turn it off. I generally didn't see a distance, so I kept mine off. Lower the rest of your graphics settings if it'll help you run. Try and avoid huge bearing machines if possible. Try and keep your machines welded to a post or somewhere when not in use, just to keep them off the ground, to kind of keep those free moving parts, you know, free moving basically, so that the game doesn't have to work out collisions. Try and reduce collisions as much as you can where you can, but basically always be ready to change what may or may not be causing you lag, because with the updates, they're changing the background engine that runs everything, hopefully trying to make things a little bit better. So sometimes they'll introduce something that will reduce lag in one way, but it might bring another problem the other way. I hope that helps. I know it was a bit quick and I know it might have been a bit rushed through, but there is plenty of videos out there that go into a lot more detail. I'm just trying to deliver hopefully what I can to you guys to help you enjoy playing the game, because it's a good game. I feel it's got a lot to offer, but you know, you got to get there in the first place. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope to see you again next time. Bye for now. Bye, guys.